Today on Locked On Rockies, we're talking about the still leadoff man, Charlie Blackmon.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today. I am your host, Rockies fan extraordinaire Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Rockies podcast 5 days a week. We are chatting about the beloved Colorado Rockies, navigating the season with you all. I'm also on the airwaves in the Pacific Northwest, and you can see a ton more examples of my work at paulfholden.com. Today on Locked On Rockies, we got to talk about Charlie Blackmon because there's a big impact that this has across the lineup. Not only are we going to dive into an article from Patrick Saunders of the Denver Post, we're also going to talk about how out of all the outfield shakeups, out of all the changes the Rockies have seen, one thing didn't change, and that was Charlie Blackmon playing right field and leading off. So we're gonna talk about that and just talk about this new look outfield and how Charlie Blackmon will fit into it, and just kind of the new pop that could be coming from the outfield. But let's start today by heading over to our friends at the Denver Post. And we're going to read from Patrick Saunders. Charlie Blackmon projects as Rockies leadoff hitter. Here's why. That's the article we are reading here from the Post. Charlie Blackmon projects as Rockies leadoff hitter. Here's why from Patrick Saunders over at the Denver Post. Just a few years ago, Rockies right fielder Charlie Blackmon was one of the most productive leadoff hitters in Major League Baseball history. His numbers were remarkable. In 2016, his 29 home runs as leadoff hitter were the most in the major since 2008. In 2017, when he hit a career-high 333, he slugged 37 homers and set a big league record with 103 RBIs from the leadoff spot. His 86 extra base hits were the third most by a leadoff hitter in MLB history and the highest ever in the National League. Plus, his 383 total bases from the leadoff spot ranks as most of all time. But Blackmon's older now. He turns 36 on July 1st. His power has diminished. His 13 homers last season were fewest in a full season since he became a starter in 2014, and he's lost some of the speed that carried him to 43 stolen bases in 2015. Yet Blackmon will likely be the Rockies' primary leadoff hitter this season. It makes sense for a number of reasons, including Colorado's increased power in the lineup, the addition of the designated hitter in the NL, and most importantly, Blackmon's skills and awareness as a hitter. He's been there before in that spot, manager Bud Black said on Sunday. He's a good base runner. He might not be a base stealer anymore, but he's a smart player. He understands the game and understands that what he needs to do to start a game. It could be anything. It could be a first pitch hack, a homer. It could be a great at-bat and seeing a number of pitches. To give the guys following him a chance to see stuff early in the game from the starting pitcher, it's many things that occur, and Charlie is capable of all those things. Plus, the Rockies hope they no longer need Blackmon to supply power in the middle of their order. The acquisition of slugging left fielder Chris Bryant and the power potential of first baseman C.J. Cron and the hopeful emergence of infielders Ryan McMahon and Brendan Rodgers frees up Blackmon to move to the top of the order. Realizing how many middle-of-the-order bats we have, I wouldn't mind hitting in front of those guys, Blackmon said. Plus, I'm really comfortable there, and I really think that it's harder for somebody to transition into it if they haven't done it yet. I feel like I can put together some competitive at-bats and get on base one way or another, creating some traffic. Adding the DH means there's a better chance that Blackmon will come to the plate with a runner on base. The biggest part of all this is because we aren't hitting behind the pitcher anymore, Blackmon said. We're going to have depth all the way to the bottom of the order. I think that our 8-hole hitter is going to be better than what we've had in the past. And guess what? Our 9-hole hitter isn't the pitcher. So there's much better chance that the 9-hole hitter hits a double or gets on base in front of me. There's going to be more opportunities for RBIs in the past. And that is massive. That's something I actually didn't really think about fully and consider until I was reading this piece. That is important. If the Rockies' bottom of the order is able to get on base, if we are able to see doubles late, and we should now, hopefully, without the use of the pitcher, with the Rockies DH, that bottom of the order does become increasingly more interesting. Do you want to put Connor Joe as the DH down there further so he can take a quality at bat, get on base as the DH to lead into then Charlie Blackmon? And then you're hoping Charlie Blackmon isn't just getting on base or hitting the long ball to score like we saw last year with him in the middle of the lineup. He is a different factor. That part of it is something I really didn't consider. And that is, again, another example of how the DH is going to impact the Rockies more than other teams. That DH is going to not only allow for the Rockies to figure out some stuff and let Charlie Blackmon keep taking hacks when he's not playing right field, but he is also going to be, able to kind of provide I think Charlie Blackmon is going to be able to settle into a more comfortable space for him mentally on his contributions to the offense. Patrick Saunders is a good point, and in the quotes that he got there does highlight the fact that the Rockies were trying to use Blackmon as a run generator, last season, and moving around and not letting and having that consistency is an impact. It can be something that's interesting. And if Charlie Blackmon has a good solid line at the top of the order, fed by a better bottom half of the order, you have to imagine if the bottom of the order is, say, Elias Diaz and Connor Joe going in your 8-9, you should feel confident. Hopefully, if Diaz is continuing his success on offense, you're hoping that one of those two guys will get on base to then lead for Charlie Blackmon to put them in a position to score, especially if it's someone like Connor Joe with a little bit more speed, a little bit more ability to take advantage of a double in the gap or something like that. So it's a really good quote, and it's a really good way to remind me, because when I heard the news of Charlie Blackmon leading off and especially playing right field, I think I'm not as concerned about Charlie's offense as the defense. I still think he should be a DH, and if he leads off as a DH, great. But it's an interesting factor. It's an interesting wrinkle here, because if Charlie Blackmon can just regain his composure and his consistency at the top of the order, that's going to be massive for the Rockies. And Charlie Blackmon will also be better if Ryan McMahon and Brendan Rodgers are better. If those two pad out the middle of the order as well as we're hoping, plus Cron and Diaz being able to, hitting like they did last year, mixing in your Connor Joes and your Sam Hilliards as your DHs, that does provides an interesting lineup that should score more runs. I know, it might be kind of surprising, but this should be a better Rockies offense than last year, even without Trevor Story. And it's just hoping that these new pieces, these new changes actually pay off in terms of contributing to the offense. But Charlie Blackmon leading it off into Brendan Rodgers, into Ryan McMahon, or, probably into your Chris Bryant's, your CJ Crones, I don't think Elias Diaz is going to get higher than 5 in the order, but you do start thinking, it's like, okay, that could work. When you start going through, if Blackmon leads off, and then you just kind of piece in your other contact bats into your big power. And then how does Grichuk go with into this lineup as well, if he's going to be hitting bombs like we saw in spring training? So now on proper reflection, this is the move that makes sense to kind of keep in your ways with Charlie Blackmon. I think it makes sense to stay till, if he's confident in leading off, which it does. He's right. You do have to be a leadoff batter. You do have to have a leadoff batter mentality. And Charlie Blackmon does have a good approach at the plate too. All those factors I didn't consider as much. And so I'm glad that I was able to read into this and kind of remember that, oh yeah, the DH. Oh yeah, it's good that so you want someone up there that's going to take a long at bat. You want someone up there that's going to be interesting, and having Charlie Blackmon start off your lineup, even if it's a Charlie Blackmon that it's got like a 280 average, as long as he has that OPS up, as long as Charlie Blackmon takes good extended at bats, I'm not going to be too upset with him leading off the Rockies lineup. I really am not. I think that's going to be a great way to have your veteran guy go up and set a presence for your offense at the top of the games, at the start of the lineup. Send your guy out there that's gone against the Dodgers a million times. Send your guy out there that knows how to take extend an at bat. Put someone up there that knows how to be a quality hitter. And as we read in that article, I mean, Charlie Blackmon used to be one of the best, if not the best, leadoff man in baseball. If we can recapture some of that, I'm not asking Charlie Blackmon to revert to 7 years ago Charlie Blackmon. No, I'm not, But I am hoping that his maturity, his approach to offense, and his talent is going to make him someone that is going to be a good spot to lead off with. And again, Charlie Blackmon as the leadoff only gets better if Brendan Rodgers and Ryan McMahon take steps forward on offense. And I'm going to tell you more about that and why I think that, and more about Charlie Blackmon in just a moment. But first, got to tell you about our friends at Athletic Greens. Well, here's the deal, folks. Here's this product that I've been using every day since they sent it. And here, before I get into the ad read, here's the box. Here's what it looks like. So when you put the powder and the stuff in there. Big glug. What we're doing here is it's just a good way to start your body off with a bunch of vitamins and minerals, all that good stuff. With one scoop of the Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75. So in here, we got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. Honestly, I've really liked it because I'm not much of a breakfast right away person. I need kind of some time in the morning. I like to do some stuff and eat later on in the day. But it's been nice to put this in and drink this stuff because it's not like I'm like bouncing off the walls in terms of energy or anything. It just is. It just feels nice. It just is something. It feels good to start my day by putting in an easy to drink, fine tasty little beverage here that just goes down the hatch. And it's really nice to just know that you've started your day off with something that's good for you. And I'm someone who really slacks with taking vitamins and minerals and all that stuff, especially in pill form. So having it all in a nice little beverage, super easy with my little shaker bottle here, is really, really great. So you can go and check out all the great stuff. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or anything or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Supports better sleep quality, supports mental clarity and awareness, and it costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all these different supplements for yourself. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. That's athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Head over to athleticgreens.com/MLB network and take ownership over your health. Charlie Blackmon is going to take ownership over the top of the order. And like I said, Charlie Blackmon is going to benefit greatly from Ryan McMahon and Brendan Rodgers stepping up, because if he's able to use his abilities and use that baseball talent and baseball brain to build up confidence, to build up a better approach for McMahon and Rodgers, that's going to create earlier opportunities for the Rockies on offense. It's going to lead into the Rockies being able to take advantage of these new power bats that they've added. The Rockies clearly made a message this offseason of trying to increase the power of this lineup. And I said earlier in the podcast that this is a team that should score more runs than previous Rockies teams, especially last year. And that should be the case. If the Rockies going all in with Chris Bryant, going out there and trading Raimel Tapia for Grichuk, for getting some of these other people whose their thing is power. That's it really was just those two are the biggest power bats that they added. Jose Iglesias, I'm not really counting on for power. I'm counting on him to just perform up to snuff and hit the ball well with contact. But with the moves of Bryant and Grichuk, those are the players you're going to hope come in there and hit the long ball on top of CJ Cron, because baseball is just such a machine. And if you do start your order, which is really, the batting order is another, there's two, the offense and the defense are two different machines. If you're willing to stick with me on this analogy here, but you got the right piece to start things off in Charlie Blackmon. If he's able to recapture, we need Charlie Blackmon to step up in terms of offense. If he's going to lead this off, he can't be last year's Charlie Blackmon. He needs to be better, or it doesn't have to be greatly better, but better than last year's Charlie Blackmon to start this lineup off, which is going to increase confidence in the abilities of Ryan McMahon and Brendan Rodgers there at that next part of the lineup, which then increases your potential for runners being on and scoring situations for your run scorers, your Chris Bryant, your CJ Crones, and maybe even your Elias Diaz's. Then that leads into a bottom of the order that is still going to have an interesting approach to the dish. Iglesias, Connor Joe, leading back into your Blackmon. I know I'm not hitting every single person there, but that's what I'm just saying. When you kind of break down the order like that, Charlie Blackmon leading off does kind of seem to make a lot of sense. I would like to see Charlie maybe dip into the middle of the order if they're giving off days to the power bats, and if he's DHing that day. I think DH Charlie Blackmon would be good to kind of sneak into other parts of the lineup. How much you want to mess around with people where they're at in the order, I don't know. That's kind of a manager thing, and like Charlie said, there's a different mindset for each position in the batting order that you like you said, you got to have the right mentality to be the leadoff man. I'm not, and so my confidence in Charlie Blackmon as a leadoff hitter isn't low. I just am worried about it because of the regression we've seen on offense. We can't have Charlie Blackmon go up there as the leadoff guy and get blown away on fastballs. Charlie Blackmon was struggling to hit fastballs more so than usual last year, as we were reading. So Charlie Blackmon needs to show that he's still got it as the leadoff as well. I know he can still hit. I know he can still swing it. And I know he can still contribute to this team. But leadoff does have a high amount of expectation. It has a high amount of skill required. And it really will set the tone. It will set the tone for the Rockies in every situation. He's not going to get on every time. It's not going to. I'm not asking him to bat 1,000. I'm not asking him to take that walks. I'm just asking him I'm just making sure that the Rockies are fully confident that Charlie Blackmon still can be their leadoff guy, which he most certainly can. But there are other interesting leadoff options for the Rockies. I think most notably is Connor Joe. But again, reading that piece, re-looking at the lineup, breaking it down, it makes sense for Charlie Blackmon to still lead things off. Doesn't necessarily still make him to play right field, but leadoff, I think we'll be okay with. I think this is a move that we should still bring our confidence in Charlie Blackmon being the leadoff batter for the Colorado Rockies. I don't think that we need to worry as much about his offense as we do his defense. If he starts this season off. We just have to know. You just have to know when you're not getting enough from Charlie in the leadoff spot. As simple as that is to say, it's just understanding and valuing that leadoff spot and valuing that Charlie is still effective. It's just there is those factors that go into leadoff batting. But then again, when I look at the Rockies roster and when I look at who's on the team right now and the lineups constructed, especially as we've seen now a little bit in spring training with starters getting a lot of work. It's the construction I like. I think I'm okay to start the season off with the Blackmon in the leadoff, and then and then getting your Rodgers and your McMahon in the middle, and then your Crone, your Diaz, your Bryant there as well, and then your Iglesias, your Connor Joe, and who am I missing? And your Hilliard, whoever's playing center field, your Grichuk, your all those players will round it out, and that's not bad. And Grichuk could be a really interesting option for to play for the Rockies to add power in there. I just don't know. Center field is going to be tough. Defense is going to be important. We haven't talked a lot about the importance of defense for these outfielders today, but that'll probably be a show for another time. Let's dive into live chat here. Devin's saying, I'm okay with Charlie leading off. To be honest, I'd rather just have him lead off and then be in right field. Just please be a DH. If he wants to stay as leadoff, I'm hoping for like a 330, 350 OBP. That would, if Charlie Blackmon is in that mid 300s of the OBP, that's great. That Charlie Blackmon has to be that. And Charlie Blackmon can't just also go up and hack at it, which I don't think he will, but I'm just saying we're used to Charlie Blackmon home runs. We're used to Charlie Blackmon power. I would love for Charlie Blackmon to continue to develop an an approach that draws out at bats. And I think we saw a lot of that last year. I think Charlie Blackmon, again, is a very talented hitter. It's going to be someone who he's got to be someone that just gets on base. And that's true for the whole Rockies lineup in general. Is just, I want the Rockies to continue to be better at taking pitches, better at expanding at bats, and just getting on base. And Charlie Blackmon being in the leadoff. Anyone who's in the leadoff is going to be instrumental in that. There's an interesting little piece about Connor Joe in this Patrick Saunders piece, so I'm gonna dive back into that here. Black acknowledged that he has other candidates to lead off at least part of the time. Connor Joe, who can play corner outfield, first base, or DH, could slot number one against left-handed starters. Connor's a guy who had a high on-base percentage in the minors and showed a nice on-base percentage with us last year. Black said 379 was the minors average, and 379 was the on-base percentage for him last year as well. He has the ability to hit and take a walk. We want guys that can get on base. Another possible candidate is utility player Garrett Hampson, one of the Rockies' fastest players. Maybe if Hampy is playing well, but Hampy has to get on base on a higher rate than he's shown in his career. So, that's an interesting thing there too. But if you're asking me who's going to be if it's not Charlie Blackmon leading things off for the Colorado Rockies, it will be Connor Joe. I think the Rockies really like Connor Joe. I really like Connor Joe's approach to the plate. I'm very excited. We've talked a lot about Rogers and McMahon this summer or in this offseason, but I think Connor Joe is going to be a nice little sneaky player for the Rockies to come in there and provide a great offensive presence and a good defense. I mean, I think he just takes he has such a great presence in the box. I think he understands the importance of quality at bats and getting on base any means necessary. And I think he will be a nice person to lead the lineup when Charlie Blackmon is not doing so. But at the end of the day, when you break the lineup down, when you look at how it's constructed so far in spring training, kind of makes sense to have Charlie Blackmon still leading things off and have Connor Joe beef up a little bit of that and be your best hitter at the bottom of the order that can come in and then lead into Charlie Blackmon to get you at the top. But here's hoping this reshuffled, relooked Rockies offense can score more runs. That's going to be crucial for any form of Rockies success. They need to take a step forward on offense instead of the steps backwards on offense that we've seen. And the new look Rockies, we'll have to wait and see. But folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you all so much for joining me. We are bringing you Rockies podcast 5 days a week during the regular season, all season long, and we are proudly part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Hey, now that you've listened to Locked On Rockies, head on over to Locked On MLB Prospects or the Locked On MLB podcast for your second listen of the day and stay up to date with all things going on in the world of MLB farm systems and prospects with Lindsay over there, Lindsay Crosby, or the walking baseball encyclopedia himself, Sully, over there on Locked On MLB. You can also stay up to date with all things Colorado sports with the Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Broncos podcasts. And please, we are asking you to like, subscribe, and rate our show on all your favorite streaming services. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for the video podcast today. Shout out to Devin in the live chat for hanging out as always. And you can find me at Paul Holden 33. You can follow the show at LO Rockies. And until next time, Rockies fans, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On.